guess what? I found a guest. You all are going to be real happy to hear from Bernard Pollard, old Chiefs safety. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm trying to keep up. There's a lot of hubbub going on right now, so there's a lot of topics to cover.
Yeah.
Where are you at? Are you down in Florida?
No, man, I'm in Nashville, baby. I done turned country.
Oh, hey, I like the sound of that. That works pretty good. All right. We'll talk about music some other time.
Right.
So this season kind of kicked off even more so than I thought it would. What's your take? I saw a little bit of what you had to say about Mahomes, but just in general, are you surprised or you think he's just taking a step forward?
He's really good. When you look at the things that he's doing, I think the best asset he has is Coach Reed. One of the smartest offensive minds, not just for the quarterback, but for receivers, just for offense, period. He can put guys in position to be successful. And I think he's really helped out Mahomes. I think, Mahomes' talent is his talent. We can't deny his talent. But him being under Coach Reed has given him freedom to be the dominant player that he has been. And I mean, look at his arm strength. You can't deny that as well. The kid can make any throw in the National Football League, and he does it with swag.
Yeah, and he lacks zero confidence, that's for sure. And what I like about the thing that he does is it's not just picking apart a defense or using his arm. He seems to be a guy that can help direct. I mean, a young kid, but so much into that offense already. It impresses me how fast he's been learning.
Well, I think, him sitting behind Alex helped him a lot. I think him understanding and that time where he got a chance to just sit to see how you should say certain things, to see how you should, what you should be, doing on the sideline, making adjustments. I think that gave him an opportunity. And when he got his chance, he's run with this thing. He's ran with it. So I think, the sky is the limit for him. I think they said he just turned 24 today. Man, this kid is special. And I mean, you don't see this often. And I think Chiefs fans are embracing it. They're loving it. The coaches know exactly what they have. And this is going to be a fun ride the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, right. And in this era of the game, and I know it's a little bit different, as we evolve through, like it's all about offense these days. It seems like everything's got to be put offense first. Is that what you're seeing too, or am I missing something?
You're right. And it sucks to say, but this is an offensive football game. If you look at the rules, you look at how things are set up, you look at how teams are building and how plays are created. This is an offensive game. It's tough to be a DB, a linebacker in today's NFL. I know in my last couple of years in the league, you saw it coming. You saw the rule. You would see the rule changes. You would see kind of the directions that the referees and just as far as the rule makers, how they wanted to do things. And now it's full blown. I don't want to say it's 7-on-7, but it's almost like it, because you touch them after 5, they can push off, they can grab the face mask. I've seen maybe 4 face mask calls for offensive players, and they're every play. This is just an offensive game. And I mean, this is the time that we live in. So defensive players better suit up, boot up, and be ready to fight.
So from your perspective, as a DB, especially a guy that had to come in and cover tight ends and had to do a little bit of everything, how do you combat that? Like, what would you tell guys now as they're getting ready to go through their college career, get ready to try to get in this league?
Well, so that's one of the hardest things. I think if you look at this, Ryan, like I say this all the time. When I watch college football, if I get a chance to watch college football, I think you need to get these guys ready on all levels at every position. Kickers, move that ball back. Stop putting them at the 3 or 4 yard line, wherever it is. Move the ball back. Because this is the only way they're going to be able to understand what NFL kickers are actually going through. And that way they're not surprised when they're going to try out for a football team and they put that ball back and they look like, oh, shoot, I'm used to kicking from up here. So put them in position like that as far as college ball. As far as, all of these, I look at offensive plays, I look at defensive plays from the college perspective, and things are it is just so jig-rigged. I mean, you don't get a true cover 3. You don't get everything is flat. Get these guys playing in the right systems, get them going in the right way. But You got so many college football teams. You have so many minds offensively and defensively. And then you got a lot of kids. Some can understand it, some doesn't. So now it's just like, okay, well, let's lock this side of the field up. Let's zone this side of the field because he doesn't understand it. And you're playing more for the player opposed to the system.
And do you see that coming in? Like we saw some of that very mixed coverage last week, right? Do you see that creeping into the NFL too?
You can try, but I mean, if you look at the rule changes, even with quarterbacks trying to clap now, it's a false start. They're calling, these guys. So I think the NFL is doing everything that they can to keep it out because they want this to be a little different than college football. Obviously, we know the rosters are smaller, the talent is that much better, but they're not really giving. You're going to have mixed coverages. You'll have some 9. You'll have some, you'll have some 7. You'll have some 6 coverage. But when you don't really get crazy. Every once in a while, you can go man one side and zone another side. But with today's NFL, too many guys doing this all day long. So you can't cross that because defensively, you're going to be shattered.
And the more that you go, like we're seeing more nickel, more dime all the time. It's the base defense now, right? So how important is the guys up there that might be able to play man, that can get their hands on guys like you were talking about earlier, versus the guys that sit in the back and try to see the whole field? What's more important these days?
It's it's tough, and I mean you have to look at what teams you're going against. Like you hit it on the head right there when you said you're seeing more nickel and dime. I think yesterday Sunday's game I saw dime on the field probably 15 plays. You don't normally see dime on the field that many times, that many plays. You are getting more of your nickel package because you have a Kings personnel, which is 3 receivers, 1 tight end, and a running back. You have more teams coming out like that. That's their base set. And, when I was playing early in football years ago, you had regular, you had diesel, which was 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, and 1 back. Now it's like we got speed. They can't touch us. And if they do touch us, we can throw a red flag to see if it was a pass interference. It's just today's NFL is just so different. How do you stop it? You just got to get Ferraris on the defensive side of the ball that can run with these receivers and look to knock it down.
It really is about speed, right? I mean, that's the thing that it all comes back to.
Exactly. I agree 100% with you. You want to get speed. You got to have some technique because these receivers they're so good. But I think when you look at how offensive schemes are being put in, how they're being installed, you got pick routes. Well, if I see a pick route and we're calling it a pick route, that should be a penalty. You know what I mean? But like we're seeing this, and we're seeing all kind of rubs and guys trying to get off to get open. It's already an offensive game, and for you to go and implement plays where we're making it more of an offensive game, giving you that much more of an advantage, it's making it hard. It's hard to play DB already. Now you just made it that much harder.
Yeah. And when you look specifically at the Chiefs, Tyrann Mathieu, new to the team, looks to be a leader. A little bit undersized, though. And when you look at some of those rub routes, specifically with the tight ends, I mean, how if you're on that sideline trying to coach him up a little bit about how to power through some of that, what are you doing?
You know what? If for a lot of teams, especially I got a chance to play against Kelsey. I think it was his rookie year. I got up on the line of scrimmage and jammed him. With guys like that, you don't have big safeties like me anymore. Or you got guys that are converted corners. Nickels, and you got some guys that actually was receivers playing, corner and safety. But you got to get on the line of scrimmage. You have to jam. This is where your technique comes in. How can I jam these big guys to stop them from rubbing the guy behind me? But it all boils down to communication as well. It's you look at the game, it's so fast offensively that defensively the communication is not there. You don't really see anything anymore. So when you can't see, you have bad communication, you have mental errors and mistakes on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what we're seeing. And I think if you look at the game, the Chiefs and the Raiders, guys were running wide open because the Chiefs were going so fast, they didn't have a time to see and adjust.
Right, and you can't communicate cross field, right? I mean, you got to go back to hand signals in old school, right?
Exactly.
That's tough. And, and that brings me back to the state of the DB, right? And we heard today from Trez Paylor reported that the Chiefs did make a go at Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, obviously was at the top of a lot of draft boards, including mine. And it did take a number 1 draft pick. I didn't think they'd go for it, but clearly from the way that this fell out, they lost that deal because of where their placement is likely to be. Is it just getting that much more expensive to try to get guys that you feel can be versatile, like you said, and come down in the slot and play back?
You know what? Obviously, I think the last couple of years we've seen a lot of nickelbacks get paid a lot of freaking money. You know, they're making $30 million. So for a nickelback, that was unheard of. You know, when I was playing, nickelback might have got 10 to 15, if that. And so now you double that because they're on the field just as much as if they were the starting corner. So you have to pay according to the market. So that's what's happening. You know, to look at Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I actually just talked about this on my show, but as far as Minkah Fitzpatrick going for a first-round pick, for him, he is more of a nickel back. He's not a good safety. He's not a good corner. You know, he played a lot of nickel at Alabama. That's where he's more comfortable inside. He's not good back in space. He's not good on an island at the cornerback position. When you allow him to kind of sit in, especially when you condense the offense, he's really freaking good. But when you spread that offense, I think he tends to kind of get lost in space, especially if he's not blitzing. He's a lot better at zone than he is man. But, you know, as you said it before, as you said it already, when you look at what's going on right now, guys need players inside. And I think he was one of the ones that Miami's willing to get rid of. It cost them a first-round pick, but they got what they wanted. They sent him off somewhere. I didn't think the Chiefs would be able to make that happen. I'm surprised that they actually went in to do that, but, you know, they tried.
Okay, we're on the same page there. I thought I was crazy for a bit, but you said something that really keyed me in, like he's comfortable in the nickel. How much is that, especially for a young guy that hasn't been in the league that long, how much is it about getting him into a scheme that he's comfortable with?
So when you get into the National Football League, obviously when you draft receivers, quarterbacks, corners, linebackers, whatever, you draft them and say, okay, when you come in, learn the system, understand what we're doing, and you get comfortable with this. When you look at a guy like that, especially Miami took him in the first round, I thought it was a reach. I still don't think he's going to ever become a dominant player in the National Football League. But when you draft a player like him, like Minkah Fitzpatrick, you have to look at, okay, he's not going to blow us out of the water on the island. And then if your scouting department is really looking at it and understand, he really didn't play a lot of safety. And when he did, he even looked lost at Alabama when he was at safety. So we can't really put him back there because he can't communicate. So with him communicating and being lost, that's a recipe for disaster right there. So let's do what we can to keep him as comfortable as possible and keep him closer to the line of scrimmage, blitzing him. Let's play some zone. And then we'll mix in a little bit of man here and there. But, you know, you got to, when you're dealing with a player like that, you've got to make that kind of decision. You've got to think about that. You have to process that before you pull the trigger.
Gotcha. And speaking of pulling trigger, big comment, big story today. What's going on in Jacksonville? Just before we get into the specifics, what's your take on what is going on? Like, how is that team melting down from the interior, the exterior, or what's the issue?
Ryan, I swear to you, probably about 3 weeks ago, I did a show. I do not trust the Jacksonville Jaguars. I look at this. I understand what they did with Nick Foles. They went and got Nick Foles, expecting him to come in, and obviously he's better than Blake Bortles. We all get that. We understand it. But when we look at this situation, Nick Foles has never played 16 games. When we look at this situation, Nick Foles has never been on a football team like Jacksonville Jaguars. Nick Foles went into a situation in Philly, and he was a part of the team. The team was already put together. This Jacksonville team they're immature, they're young. You lost Telvin Smith, who was an outspoken leader. Calais Campbell is a leader, but he's on the defensive line. He can't lead anybody behind him. It's hard as a defensive lineman. So when you look at this situation, I said it and I said again, they are a ticking time bomb. It's too many young players, especially with Nick Foles being gone. He was never really a leader like that. He wasn't asked to really lead Philly. He just stepped in and kept playing in Philly. Now, to send him to Jacksonville to say, lead this team, he's not used to that. Those boys didn't want to listen to Bortles. Those boys didn't want to listen to Marone. They were just talented, and they all clicked, and that's how they were so dominant the first year, even with Bortles. So now with everything being gone, now it's just like, okay, Nick Foles is down. There's no veteran leadership on the defensive side of the ball from the linebacker position or the safety position. You already got a hothead who showed up and already said, okay, I'm willing to play for two different teams. and you got 2 years in your contract. You show up in a Brinks truck, and you already got situations with management, with coaches that went unresolved. This team is a ticking time bomb. It's just a matter of time before it goes off. First week, you got players looking to fight and getting kicked out of the game. Players looking to fight coaches on the sideline. And that carries over to week 2. You have Jalen Ramsey, who have to be separated from Marone. I don't know what was said on the sideline. We don't know what was said. But at the end of the day, when you have one player getting up telling the coach to go the other way, you got other players telling Jalen Ramsey to sit down and be quiet. There is no leadership there. There's none. And so I said it after that game, if I'm Jacksonville, I'm getting what I can for Jalen Ramsey. I'm getting him out of here because Marone has to take back over this football club. He's got to.
So on the other side of that equation, if you were a team in desperate need of maybe some corner help, when you look at it from your perspective, is Jalen Ramsey a guy that you feel that once he moves out of Jacksonville can recover, can play as a team player, can get into the swing of things, or is it a guy that you really don't have a lot of interest in?
A lot of teams they're not gonna have interest in him just because he's so hot-headed. Excuse me. And I can kind of look. I don't want to say I wasn't a loudmouth on game day. Like, I'm gonna talk smack to you if you say something to me, but more or less, I'm gonna let my pads do the talking. Jalen Ramsey is just one of them guys where he is just, I think he's so big. He's a 6'3". I trained him coming out of Florida State. So I trained him here in Nashville. He's from Nashville. So he's so big. So he's 6'3", at least 210. So when he point and when he do this, that looks that much bigger because he's a big body. So everybody's taking offense to it, and then he's going to speak too. So I think more teams are like, okay, is he worth the headache? That's number one. A lot of teams, is he worth the headache? Some teams are saying yes. He is probably one of the most talented corners I've ever seen lace up a pair of cleats and go out on the football field. He's worth a first-round pick and more. But the issue is going to be, is a team ready for that? I think you might have a couple teams. I think that the Miami Dolphins, they're in prime position to go get him. If the Jacksonville Jaguars want to say, I want to get a first-round pick and some, and then maybe swap Rowe or Howard, we can swap players. And if you want to give me lesser for picks, we can swap them. I'm going to give you Jalen Ramsey, send him to a horrible situation, and we get what we want in return. I see that better than I see Kansas City. I don't think New England steps in. They don't need him. New England does not need him. Right. They're good already.
The brothers McWhorter or whatever. I mean, yeah, they're okay. Let's not give them any more ammunition. That value is kind of where I come into. Plus the fact he's already said, like you said, he wants a huge contract. It's coming. The 5th-year option's already been invoked, so we know what that's going to be in 2020. Right. But beyond that, knowing what you know about the organization, and I know the coaching regime is different and all that, but do you feel like with Tyrann Mathieu being the guy in the back that's looking to be the leader, with Frank Clark up front, 2 guys brand new to the team, do you think that it's a good idea to try to make it happen for them, or do you think it's just more trouble waiting to happen?
I think it's more trouble waiting to happen. I don't think the Chiefs have what the Jacksonville will be looking for as far as picks. I think Jacksonville, if they're going to take lesser picks, I think a first-round pick is a must. They're going to want a first-round pick. I'm almost thinking because of depth in Jacksonville, they're going to want a player as well. So maybe swap a player along with a first-round pick that can lessen the pick side of it. So that's why I think Miami is prime. I think they're primed to make that happen compared to what the Chiefs are. I don't know if the Chiefs can do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But just to even put him on the Chiefs team, I'm looking at it, if he's already pissed off the Jacksonville Jaguars, what does the Jaguars look at? Like, we already know the Chiefs are probably going to end up going to the playoffs. We know they're going to be there. So do the Jaguars want a 29th or 30th, selection? Like, that's what you got to look at. They don't want that. We can save that. We can get one of them picks from Miami, and because the Steelers are going to be probably a top 20 pick. Their pick is going to be top 5. So it's just like, so I think Miami is the better option for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you send him to an organization where we feel is going to be miserable for him.
Right. Well, and back home in Florida. Okay, well, that'll work partially too. So, Just before I let you go, I appreciate all the time so far, folks. Make sure you check out the Bernard Pollard Show on YouTube. I'll link it up in the stuff and all that business. Just in general, how you feel about Chiefs trying to get to the Super Bowl with this particular squad, whether they add an addition at CB or not.
You know what? This is offensively. I mean, freaking A. The Chiefs can score whenever they want to. Offensively, I think the Chiefs are set. They've done some special things, and then Tyreek Hill's out. So once he comes back, that's going to be even more firepower they have offensively. Defensively, I think this team needs to understand, as far as the DB position, got to get a little more sound as far as the corners. Safety position, Matthew is another guy that I don't think he's a true safety. He's a guy that plays better closer to the line of scrimmage as far as like a nickel or a dime. But he's transitioned to the safety position. He's played it well. He's been an all-pro. The dude has been awesome. But I just think you got to get better play defensively because I think that's going to be the only thing that holds this team back. There's no reason why we should not be talking about the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, this Super Bowl coming up. There's no reason. Nobody should be able to touch them. But I think if you're asking Mahomes to go, sling it all the time and go score for whatever team he's playing against, it's going to kind of run its course. And defense is going to have to step up and make some stops. And so what that looks like for the Chiefs making those decisions, pulling the trigger to go get certain players to help them long term, don't know.
Yeah, we're going to find out. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for all the time today, folks. Make sure you hit the YouTube channel for the Bernard Pollard Show. Thanks, Bernard.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Ryan, for having me.
All right, buddy.
All right.
All right, that went great. I appreciate the time, man.